Healing What Has Been Broken. Originally written by 𝐏𝐥𝐸. Recorded by 𝐧𝐸. Chapter 2. There has to be something we can do. Well, what is there? We can't let this go on. He's just gonna kill us all eventually. Dream sighed, rubbing his face as he tried to block out the yelling around him. The usually positive skeleton monster had to hold himself back from slamming his face onto the table he was sitting at, repeatedly. All this yelling had been going on for 3 hours, and no one was close to a suitable option or reasonable solution. If only 𝐿 would hurry up and get here, Dream would be able to make the meeting less hectic. If only because they'd have something to focus on and be able to start in earnest. But no, 𝐿 just has to be over 3 hours late. Dream hopes it's because of something simple, and not because something's going wrong. Listening to the yelling reminds him of just how much they all rely on 𝐿. He was their leader and close friend. But if said leader and close friend does not hurry up, Dream was going to have to give him a few choice words, because this was getting ridiculous unless there was a good reason. No, 𝐿 creating a new universe is not a good enough reason, or getting caught up in your new artwork. Dream mentally sighed, thinking about all the excuses 𝐿 could use, though they are better than saying he was in a fight. Moving his hands from his face, Dream looked at the skeleton monsters around him. Using his destroyed universe as a meeting spot, mostly everyone was around or sitting at a large table. It was impossible for all the monsters to be here, of course, so only the originals came. But once something was decided, the originals could go tell their counterparts within the 𝐴Us that were copies of their own. It was still a tight fit, but it worked for the time being. It also helped that not every original skeleton monster was in the 𝐴U. Only those who had and knew about reset. It just made things easier in the long run. Still didn't help with the arguing and yelling and drama that came from having so many of the same-ish person in the one place. At times, Dream just wanted to scream as loud as he could and throw his hands in the air, but he couldn't. Not with the Destroyer killing millions, if not billions at a time, and his own brother still out there causing havoc in the multiverse. Brother. Dream's golden star-shaped eyelids set, just thinking about his brother. Nightmare brought so many emotions. Negative emotions that mixed with the positive and made something so terribly bittersweet. He could still remember when he and Nightmare lived in this 𝐴U, the relationship not as broken and shattered as it was now. If he thinks hard on it, he could still hear the village filled with life, everyone talking and going about their day. He doesn't understand why Nightmare would eat one of the apples. To kill until there was nothing left of the 𝐴U. To destroy their mother tree. The worst part is that Dream couldn't understand why Nightmare hates him so. Well, it really doesn't matter now, does it? Dream opened his eyes, looking about at the still arguing monsters around him. All that matters is that I stop you, my brother. Negativity isn't something needed, and I won't allow you to rule the multiverse. If only you'd stop. If only it were that easy. Dream did hate hurting his brother, but some things were necessary for the good of the multiverse. Thinking about his brother always led to thoughts about the Destroyer, the very reason for this meeting. Error, the most murderous, evil monster there is, the one who can destroy whole 𝐴Us with a flick of a finger, with a body count to his name higher than there is numbers. Error, who'd been around longer than most in even this broken world, having more experience on his side when it came to fighting. Error, the one 𝐿 fought for so many decades to save and keep the multiverse safe. The one who Dream himself had been fighting to keep everyone safe. Error, who may well be the best fighter in the multiverse. Error is the one his brother trusts. It wasn't hard to see. Dream knew Nightmare's tells even after his corruption. It made him feel bitter in ways he shouldn't, to think about it. The Nightmare trusts the Destroyer over him, his own brother. If he didn't know better, he'd think that Nightmare had romantic feelings for Error, but it was impossible. Negativity couldn't feel something as positive as love. Shaking off the bitter thoughts, Dream glanced around. I don't see you doing anything. Please, you bastard. I really don't think, though. Slumping down, Dream nearly gave in to the impulse to slam his face into the table. Ink, please, hurry up. Staring down at the burnt taco on a white glass plate, Swap had the urge to just throw the whole dish at the wall. Let it shatter. Maybe just cry. But if he did that, his brother Stretch would just ask too many questions that Swap really didn't want to answer. And seeing as the town would most likely hear him, and to tell his brother out of some misplaced concern, that is exactly what would happen. So, he resisted, and looked away from the taco. Instead, he just blankly looked around the house. Starry blue eyes, nowhere near as bright as they used to be. It had been many, many years since Error had kidnapped him. Many years filled with resets, which he now remembers. Another thing his brother just loves to blame on Error. But Swap can't hate Error. Not when he recalls the way the taller monster flinched from those horrid voices that kept screaming at him, or Error telling him about the multiverse, shattering his little rose-tinted glasses, bluntly stating the truth of the very foundation of everything. Swap couldn't hate Error. How could he, when Error is more brother to him than Stretch is? Stretch treats him like a baby Bones. Not even a little brother, which would still be insulting. Swap isn't stupid. Hell, he's the elder one. Swap raised Stretch. And the thanks he gets is being treated like a child. Sure, he's naive, and he likes to think the best of others, but he's not a child. He has the right to make decisions and choices and face consequences. But for all Stretch claims he loves him, he takes those choices away without thought. For all Error kidnapped him, Error let Swap make choices, and say whatever he wanted to. Error let him out when the anti-void started corrupting him. Error treated him like the adult he is, and still like a younger brother. That fine line Error seemed to understand more than Stretch does. Stretch doesn't even really do anything either. For all his overprotectiveness and hovering, he'd rather just get drunk and let the day pass by. Every day Stretch is home and not at Muffet's, and it's not during the time the human childs come for a run of some kind. He's either passed out drunk on the couch, or out in a different universe. It's sad to say Error, for how angry and insane he'd been back then, had actually taken the time to knit and sew with him, the time to play with him and talk to him and watch other AUs, which may as well have been Error's version of TV shows, with him. His own blood brother doesn't. Stretch, for all the resets and other reasons he refuses to admit, had given up a long time ago, long before Swap had started to remember them, and started to see there's something wrong with him, mentally and emotionally. But Error hasn't given up. For all the abuse and pain and everything that's happened to him, Error hasn't given up. He's not mentally sound, but who could be with his life? He's still able to smile and go on. Or he has been since the last Swap saw him, which had been over a decade ago. Stretch makes sure that Error never comes around, and makes sure Swap can't leave their AU. His dear brother has the whole universe watching him, controlling That's the word 𝐲 wants. When Error said he couldn't do something, he gave a valid reason. Once 𝐲 had tried to touch one of the one-sided portals that led to a rather violent universe. Error had stopped him, told him if he touched it, he'd go inside that AU and more than likely get hurt. Not because he was the prisoner even, but because he'd get hurt or killed, with no chance of coming back because of being outside the universe and thus out of the resets. When Stretch tells him not to do something, that's all he does, and he expects 𝐲 to do it. Like a good brother. Like a good dog. Frowned tightly, eyes glaring at a hole in the wall. If I even go somewhere, he knows it, 'cause the others will tell him. I can't change anything about who I am. There's no growth for him. That was Stretch forcing him to stay the same, as if nothing ever happened, as if he didn't know the truth. As if he didn't know that ink was the reason Error had to destroy. As if he didn't know that the human child, the one they so often call Bandy, is the one making the choice to kill or not, where the first fallen human, little 𝐲, is only their consequence. And Stretch follows ink without question, and Stretch blames 𝐲 and not Bandy. Blames Error, when the very creator is the one slowly killing off the multiverse. It's the scapegoats, and not the culprits. To be fair, 𝐲 could admit that no one but himself had tried to tell Stretch the truth. And Stretch apparently thinks he has Stockholm Syndrome or something. Doesn't even want to see him change. Throws a little fit every time he tries to break the mold he's been forced in. 𝐲 doesn't think he's ever going to stop using scapegoats as a means to get the sins off his back. 𝐲 could try again, try telling Stretch, but in the end it all came down to one thing. Looking at his burnt taco on a glass plate, 𝐲 had the urge to throw it at the wall, watch it shatter, have a good long cry. But, like a good dog, he resisted and got back to work cleaning his prison house. Picking up the plate, throwing away the taco, heading to the sink, like so empty. Mastering a smile on his face, trying to force the one thought in his mind that made him want to cry and laugh away. I just don't believe in you anymore, Stretch. Ink, hasn't this gone on long enough? Glaring, Ink tightened his hold on his brush, the universe around him distorting. Error sighed, watching dust swirl in the air. He did love destruction and fighting. He loved the rush it gave. He hated being forced to do it. He hated having to kill children and innocents who didn't deserve any of this. But there are needs, and death is one of them. Even if he would rather just drop dead himself. It's been the same thing for years. I scratched one of the many scars on his skull, making dust flake away from it. Just you and me fighting until somebody runs or wins for the moment. He stills, tilting his head and wonders aloud, just how long will this go on? How long until the multiverse is too full? How long until I finally find a way to die? How long until this sick game of yours is done? There were many questions that Error always left unsaid. There was no need to say them now, not when they would do nothing. They're like talking in one ear hole and out the other with ink. I'll never stop, Momo, shifting his feet to get in a more offensive fighting position. So long as you keep destroying, I will keep fighting to my last breath. And can't, won't stop, not while Error was there killing off his creations. So he stood, ready and willing to fight until death if that is what it took, even if this AU was slowly dying because of Error ripping at its codes. To error, Ink looked so much the martyr, rising up to fight the great evil. If only Ink hadn't interrupted him while he was working with the codes, this AU would already be long gone and he'd be on his way to be screamed dead again. But no, the codes were only partially destroyed, and the AU was slowly crumbling in on itself, dying off in a slow, painful manner instead of the small mercy he could give it. Watching Error roll his eyes, Ink's own went red. Ink's hand shook as he tried to hold himself back. He's mocking me, mocking the pain, the death, the very destruction of this universe. I don't want to deal with this right now. 𝐏𝐥𝐞 muttered to himself. He spoke on. This universe is dead no matter what you do. I just made a portal into the anti-void. As long as you create, I must destroy. It's my job, after all. You sarcastic asshole! Running, trying only to get to the portal too late. Error had already stepped in, and it was closed quick behind him. The ground underneath him was starting to crumble. He cursed and made a portal for himself. He had no time to think right now. He had to get moving unless he wanted to die with this world. Diving into the portal, Ink could feel his soul shudder as the universe gave out a last rumble. As the portal closed, the entire AU was dead. The destruction complete, much to the creator's misery and the destroyer's indifference. Underfell 35 was gone and could not come back. Ink, finally! Dream nearly cried in joy at seeing his friend jump into the portal. Finally could get this meeting on track. Though the joy died when he saw the blood on Ink. Injuries, close, slashed in some places. The creator looked more than a little winded and angered. Ink? The creator blinked, looking around as if seeing the monsters and broken world for the first time. He hadn't had any place in mind when he made the portal to escape the dying AU, but it seems he'd chosen the place where he was supposed to have gone before he felt Error destroying another. When he saw everyone, something hit him. It's been the same thing for decades. The faces in front of him, Ink slowly thought was something that could either doom them all or save them all from the greatest threat of the multiverse. Just you and me, fighting until one side runs or wins for the moment. Ink? Dream slowly questioned, taking a step closer to the frozen creator. Is everything okay? I have a plan. Started in a daze. It still felt lighter, but something squeezed at it. Perhaps the only thing we haven't really tried yet. How long will this go on? Not for much longer. There. I'll make sure of that. Overall, Ink believes and knows that he will make it happen no matter what. Something in him does dread it. Look at my wonderful child, Ink crooned out, his ever-changing lips stretching in a smile. That child may have caused a few injuries to Ink, but he'll be fine. He is so strong, isn't he, my sibling? She asked with a chuckle, glancing over their shoulder. Destiny tilted their head in a sweet smile. Your child is certainly something, my dear sibling. Isn't he? And sighed out so lovingly. Look at all the lovely AUs he's made to fill up the space of that empty multiverse. So colorful and bountiful. It's no longer so cold. But it's almost too filled, Destiny couldn't help but point out, making Fate frown rather deeply. I do worry, my dear sibling. Oh, I know you do, Destiny, but that's why I forced my thing under my strings. Fate snorted rather darkly before chuckling. With how I made the anti-void, there's no chance of him not doing what I say. With him so beaten down, it's easier to drag him along to his fate. Turning away from Destiny, Fate hummed lightly, looking at all the red strings that surrounded him. With him broken, my true child can have all the fun he wants. Isn't that what any parent wants, their child's happiness? Destiny gave a little hum, and Fate laughed, pleased. With Fate distracted, Destiny turned their attention to the butterflies that gently flapped about them. 2 certain ones, one bigger than all others and one smaller than all others, rather suddenly twitched and flapped their wings differently than before. Soon a hurricane will begin. Destiny found it amusing and ironic that with all the freedom Fate gave to ink, they didn't realize they let him choose his own fate in the most basic way, by making it Destiny. Sure, Fate had deemed he be creator, but everything else, that was choice, that was Destiny's domain. But because of Fate, he hadn't gotten the consequences of those choices and actions. Yet soon, both Fate and ink will have their first taste of consequence that has been built up over centuries. Maybe then ink will learn, with Fate being so distracted by all else. Error, on the other hand, will soon be free. Destiny could feel that to their very core. Their soul broke at all the pain he goes through. All the pain will soon end. Soon the path Destiny had tried to make happen will come. There were many roadblocks, many issues and problems to come alive, but it is one where Destiny could see Error the most happy and loved. While they might see the road and possible endings, they could not see it all. It'll be as much a journey for Error as it would be for themselves. Soon the time to act will come. Destiny breathed in gently, smiling with actual joy for the first time in so long. I can hear the war drums beating. It is almost time, my chosen child.
Hey, jackass!
Why couldn't you just die already?
You worthless piece of trash!
Child murderer. He twitched as he tried to sew a new doll. Its red button eyes stared up at him as he tried to ignore the yelling and occasional screams that never seemed to end. He just wanted to try and have a break before he'd had to go out and destroy a few more AUs. Error hated how he did love it. He hated being forced to do it, he supposed. Fighting does get tiring, but he loves the rush of it. He wants to destroy and fight, but on his own terms. Choice. He guessed that's what it boiled down to.
Nothing but a piece of shit is what
Friendless,
you are.
loveless, just a piece of space that will deserve nothing. Fate will never let it happen, though. No matter how much Error does crave freedom, he doesn't know what freedom even is. Isn't sure what it means. To Error, it's simply another concept that he can't have. I mean, the job he was forced to take, and because ink will never stop this twisted game. Fingers twitching, Error wonders if he should try another suicide attempt. But at this point, he's run out of ideas for new ones. Well, there is one, maybe. But should he really try? It may hurt all the more. Even as the last option, the last thing he hasn't tried yet. And it means leaving everyone at the mercy of ink, who's more than likely to doom all the multiverse in the name of creation. Should he? Because even still he wants to.
Fucking idiot can't do anything.
You're
What?
not pretty. You're not handsome. You're not smart. You're not interesting. You're not worth a single gold piece, let alone a speck of dirt. Less than worthless. Less than nothing. He put his more dark thoughts in the back of his mind for now, and chuckled as he tried to ignore the pain of his many injuries, tried to ignore the blood and dust that was tainting the doll he was making. It'll heal with time. It always does. He's healed from someone ripping all of his bones apart. He'll heal from this. He has to. There's no choice even there. Not with fate's strings choking him into position, dragging him down the road that he'd have never picked. Tell me something I don't know.